Hey everyone, I'm on a journey to read the entire world, a book from every country on earth. The lazy bugger that I am, that's the best way to travel the world. I left Japan a few days ago and now I'm in Russia. Okay, let's get straight into our reading. Russia, the motherland, buzzes with literature and novels. If you make a list of world's greatest novelists, many Russians are bound to be on that list. The harsh and long winters allow the Russians to write the greatest novels that go deep into human psyche and dissect all manner of themes, from politics, history, social change to crime, guilt, and redemption. Nowadays, Russians have taken on the cyber world. Okay, now to our reading choices. I have read most of the novels written in the 19th century Russia that sometimes I think I was born in the wrong country and the wrong century. But today I've picked stories that are unique but a bit less known, short and digestible. Okay, my first choice is by Mikhail Lermontov. He was a poet but wrote one novel before dying in a duel when he was only 26. Only a few years after his hero Pushkin, who was also killed in a duel aged 37. Welcome to Russia. A Hero of Our Time, published in 1840, is the first Russian novel that started a revolution in Russian literature. The rest is history. It's short for a Russian novel, which reflects author's own short life, dying at 26. It's a haiku compared to other Russian novels of the time. It's about Russia's war against the Muslims in the Caucasus, a conflict that's been raging on and off for centuries. In this novel, Pechorin, the Byronic hero, is a soldier who gets into duels. It's somewhat of a nihilist, critical of society, war, women, and even himself. This reflects Lermontov's own tormented life. Reading this feels like reading the author's own life and what it means to be a man, tormented, lost, and disenchanted with everything. There is no better novel that tackles the psychology of being a man, a gallant man, revealing their inner turmoil caused by the burden of playing the masculine role in society. It reveals that the dominant role in society comes with a huge psychological and existential cost for men, but receives little or no sympathy. Okay, now to our next choice, a novel by Nikolai Gogol. Okay, this is the longest one on the list. Dead Souls was published in 1842, 2 years after Lermontov's novel A Hero of Our Time. It's a story of a smooth-talking Chichikov who wants to scam his way to quick wealth by buying dead serfs to accumulate enough of them in order to take a large mortgage from a bank. The government surveyed and registered serfs every 5-10 years, so there were many dead serfs whose owners still had to pay tax despite the fact that they were no longer alive. This story deals with the arrival of capitalism in Russia, showing how old, rigid, and cruel the Russian serf system was and how corrupt the capitalism. My favorite scene is when a landowner demands higher price. Chichikov asks why. The landowner's response is hilariously funny. He says his dead serfs were very hardworking when they were alive, so their price should reflect that. It's full of comedy, ironic twists, digressions, and lots of useless details. This novel took a huge toll on Gogol that he collapsed under the pressure and burned part of the book twice. But it's a great comic novel that cuts deep into Russian society of the day. Also very relevant today, where people scam their way to a quick wealth. Also in the virtual world, where people buy fake or dead followers in order to boost their profile, just as Chichikov did with Dead Souls. Maybe I should buy a few fake followers to boost my channel that has only 20 followers. Okay, next on the list is a short story by Fyodor Dostoyevsky, my favorite Russian writer. I don't agree with his religious conversion, but he's brutal in understanding human psyche. His novels deal with psychological and philosophical issue of what it means to be human. A modern, free human, that God is no longer alive to hold his hand. You might know him by novels like Crime and Punishment, Brothers Karamazov, Idiots, and Notes from the Underground. But my pick for reading is short story. Published in 1848, White Nights referred to the bright sky of summer nights in St. Petersburg. It tells the story of a lonely young man's unrequited love. Simple enough, but again we are dealing with Russia and Dostoevsky. The unnamed narrator walks into the city at night to avoid people. One night he sees a young girl crying against a railing. They talk and become friends. They meet a few more times, always at night, during which he falls in love with her, only to see her in the arms of another man on their fourth and final night together. I first read it as a part of a Russian language class at university, and I hated it because I had to translate it from Russian. But reading again, I love it. It doesn't sound like an epic story, but the setting and the characters are amazing. I don't know, it just gives you this hint of meeting a random stranger and getting to know them deeply and even falling in love with them, and then being smacked in the face. If that's not interesting, I don't know what is. Life doesn't end in happiness. It ends when your heart is shattered, broken down. Now to our fourth choice. It's a short novella by Ivan Turgenev, probably the most westernized of Russian writers, as he spent a long time in Europe and was best friend with Gustave Flaubert, the French novelist. His famous novel is Fathers and Sons, that deals with the issue of East versus West. Our choice is, however, called First Love, a short story published in 1860, the most productive decade in Russian literature that gave us Crime and Punishment, Fathers and Sons, War and Peace, and many more. You might think this is a love story in traditional sense, but we are in 19th century Russia, where everything is dissected and skinned. When a 21-year-old beautiful girl moves next door, Vladimir, 16 at the time, madly falls in love. But he has a rival. Who could it be? Another boy? No, it's his own father. Father and son? Turgenev was obsessed by this relationship, I guess. The girl plays her admirers against one another. Vladimir has to grow really fast to understand what adult love really means. This is in sharp contrast to the dancing girl of Izu we read in Japan, that protects the naivety and innocence of teenage love. Nonetheless, this is a brilliant story, sharp, short, to the point, like a Japanese knife. Okay, our next choice is by Tolstoy, the grandpa of Russian literature. To be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan. His novels are too long and too much morality involved. Anyway, I love this story. This is called How Much Land a Man Needs, published in 1886. It's a short story about Pahom, a peasant who daydreams that if he had some land, he would be the king and indestructible. His dream comes true. He buys some land, but he's not happy. He saves more to buy more, but still not happy. But he is in luck, as an old woman offers him as much land as possible, only for 1,000 ruble. But there's a caveat. He has to walk and stake around the land from sunrise to sunset. We know Pahom. He cannot contain his excitement. You know what happens next. He walks too far. When he notices the sun is about to set, he rushes, but by the time he arrives, he's too exhausted and he drops dead. Pahom is every one of us, I guess. We all want more and more. In the process, we don't enjoy what we have. We live in the future, so much so that our now slips away from us and future seems to move further and further away. Living in a consumerist world, it seems like having the newer stuff makes us happy. But this insatiable desire never stops unless we change ourselves. Okay, shut up, Snappy. Stop lecturing. Now to a contemporary novel called Zuleikha Opens Her Eyes, published in 2008 by Guzel, Yakhina, which became a bestseller in Russia. It's about a Tatar woman who lived a miserable life due to her husband and mother-in-law. But when the communists arrive to take her to a labor camp, on the way her boat sinks, and she with some other strangers remains stranded in the wilderness. Life couldn't be tougher. But something amazing happens. Faced with the harsh reality of life and the rawest of natures, she, with this bunch of diverse strangers, discover a sort of freedom from their past lives, as if they were given a new life to lead from scratch. We are often entangled in our complicated pasts, and it feels good to have a second start or even a third. This novel does that brilliantly. Some parts are a bit slow with too many facts, but overall it's a great story. But sadly, that's all from Russia. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's my spirit country. Is vodka spirit? Join me again next time to read another country on our journey to read the entire world. Thank you and happy reading. Also, please send your suggestions and recommendations for books from your country. Thank you.